The United States military is extracting maximum operational value from the kinetic campaign in Iran. They aren't just systematically vaporizing missile stockpiles, mobile launchers, and defense industry infrastructure. They are actively utilizing the Iranian battle space as a live-fire testing ground for highly classified, next-generation weapons. 3 specific systems have made their combat debut with devastating effect, perfectly demonstrating America's unrivaled geopolitical dominance and absolute commitment to evolving its lethal arsenal. Here is the unclassified breakdown of all 3 platforms, their tactical capabilities, and exactly how they are dismantling the IRGC. Make sure you are subscribed to Titan Mechanics and hit that bell icon so you never miss a critical military intel update. And let us know where you stand right now in the comments. Drop a 5 if you stand with the US. Press 6 if you back Iran. Or hit 7 if you just want peace. Now, let's look at the intel. The first, and frankly the most terrifying addition to the theater, is the Precision Strike Missile, or PRSM. The lineage of this platform traces back to 2016, when the defense industrial complex heavyweights Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Raytheon began competing to replace the legendary MGM-140 ATACMS. The ATACMS has been the undisputed king of tactical artillery since Desert Storm, and it is currently proving its lethality in Ukraine by systematically disassembling Russian air defense grids. But in the U.S. military, even the apex predators eventually get replaced. The Army demanded a platform that retained the destructive yield of the ATACMS, but pushed the envelope with massively increased range and hypersonic terminal velocities. Boeing and Raytheon eventually tapped out, leaving Lockheed Martin as the sole architect of the PRSM. Initially, the missile was bottlenecked by the INF Treaty, restricting its maximum range to roughly 310 miles, a respectable bump over the ATACMS 190-mile limit, but still tethered. Then, in 2019, Washington walked away from the INF Treaty. Instantly, 310 miles transitioned from the ceiling to the absolute baseline. The Army greenlit plans to push the PRSM past the 400-mile mark, with future variants targeting an operational radius exceeding 600 miles. And here is the brilliant logistical flex. The PRSM doesn't require a billion-dollar development program for new launchers. It integrates flawlessly into the existing M142 HIMARS chassis. Better yet, because Lockheed engineered the PRSM to be sleeker and more aerodynamically refined than the ATACMS, a standard HIMARS pod can now pack 2 of these missiles instead of 1. So, the Army just doubled the operational range and doubled the immediate magazine depth of every single HIMARS on the battlefield, meaning commanders can saturate a target area with twice the firepower without sacrificing an ounce of mobility. The variant currently hammering Iran is Increment 1, the baseline 310-mile version, but Increment 2 is already in the pipeline, integrating a multi-mode seeker that transforms the PRSM into the land-based anti-ship missile, capable of tracking and annihilating moving naval targets at over 600 miles. Increment 3 will introduce advanced submunitions to crack fortified bunkers, while Increment 4 focuses on enhanced propulsion to maximize that 600-plus mile reach. Finally, Increment 5 is slated for integration with fully autonomous, unmanned launch vehicles. But even the baseline Increment 1 is causing catastrophic headaches for the IRGC. CENTCOM officially confirmed the PRSM's combat debut during Operation Epic Fury, stating it provided an unrivaled deep strike capability. Admiral Brad Cooper openly praised the deployment, noting the innovation was creating unsolvable dilemmas for the enemy. He isn't exaggerating. By doubling the range of the ATACMS, the PRSM exponentially expands the threat matrix for Iranian commanders. America can now strike critical infrastructure deep within Iran from highly dispersed, secure launch points across Iraq and the Gulf states. Furthermore, the PRSM's terminal velocity is staggering. It drops out of the stratosphere at speeds that render traditional interception almost mathematically impossible, making it the perfect kinetic solution for prosecuting time-sensitive targets like mobile radar arrays and anti-aircraft batteries. It is highly probable CENTCOM utilized the Prius-M in the opening salvos to blind the Iranian air defense grid, creating sanitized corridors for the bombers and strike fighters to follow. And let's be absolutely clear, dropping Prius-Ms on Iran is also a highly calculated message directed straight at Beijing and Moscow. In a hypothetical Pacific conflict where land-based launch sites are scarce, a 600-mile HIMARS payload instantly rewrites the rules of maritime area denial. But America didn't just bring advanced missiles to the fight. They brought an asymmetric nightmare. On paper, this conflict is an absurd mismatch. The U.S. possesses the most heavily funded, technologically supreme military apparatus in human history. Iran, conversely, leaned heavily on one specific asymmetric advantage: suicide drones. Iran has spent decades perfecting the cheap, mass-producible Shahed loitering munitions, the exact same drones currently terrorizing Ukrainian infrastructure. Analysts initially fretted that the U.S. might struggle in a war of attrition against these cheap swarms. But the Pentagon had a highly classified ace up its sleeve: the low-cost uncrewed combat attack system, or LUCAS. Developed by SpectraWorks, LUCAS is essentially an American kamikaze drone born from reverse-engineered Iranian technology. U.S. intelligence reportedly captured a Shahed, cracked its architecture, and immediately set about building a vastly superior American clone, effectively weaponizing Iran's own doctrine against them. The deployment timeline was blistering. Unveiled in mid-2025, the LUCAS was actively hunting targets in the Persian Gulf by December. When Operation Epic Fury kicked off, CENTCOM officially deployed the LUCAS en masse. Capable of autonomous operations and launchable from catapults, rockets, or mobile ground platforms, the LUCAS represents a massive strategic pivot. A U.S. defense official explicitly stated to CNN that Washington is deliberately flipping the script. Instead of swatting a $20,000 Shahed with a $3 million Patriot missile, the U.S. is now launching its own $35,000 drones to saturate Iranian airspace. While the exact stockpiles are classified, the Pentagon has confirmed they possess many of these systems, and with the backing of the American military-industrial complex, the production lines are likely running 24/7. Visually, the LUCAS appears vastly superior to its Iranian inspiration. Analysts have identified nose-mounted gimbaled optical arrays and satellite connectivity modules. This means American operators can retask the drone mid-flight, seamlessly shifting targets based on real-time battlefield intelligence, a capability the rudimentary Shaheds lack. In the near future, this architecture will absolutely support AI-driven swarm tactics. But even right now, massed LUCAS formations can be utilized to completely overwhelm Iran's surviving radar networks, creating lethal gaps for heavy munitions like the Prius-M or stealth bombers to exploit. It is a brutal irony. Tehran's proudest military export was stolen, optimized, and is now being used to systematically dismantle the regime. The final weapon making headlines isn't entirely new, but its specific configuration is highly classified. The BGM-109 Tomahawk land attack missile is the undisputed heavyweight champion of standoff strikes. Subsonic, terrain-hugging, and capable of reaching targets over 1,000 miles away, it is the U.S. Navy's premier door kicker. Historically, every Tomahawk, regardless of its specific variant, has rolled off the assembly line painted in the standard hazy gray low-visibility scheme typical of naval ordnance. But as Operation Epic Fury commenced, the Navy declassified imagery of a Tomahawk variant the public had never seen. A missile coated in a glossy, pitch-black finish. Intelligence confirmed this specific variant was utilized in the opening waves to decapitate Iranian air defenses near the Strait of Hormuz. Military analysts immediately noted the black coating is identical to the radar-absorbent material utilized on the AGM-158C long-range anti-ship missile, or LRASM. This glossy black finish isn't an aesthetic choice. It is a highly classified, low-observable coating designed to absorb radar waves and suppress the missile's infrared signature. The standard gray Tomahawk is already notoriously difficult to track, but this black variant essentially renders the missile invisible to traditional early warning networks, particularly when executing sea-skimming profiles over the Persian Gulf. The deployment of this stealth Tomahawk signifies a massive strategic shift toward penetrating deeply fortified airspace without risking fifth-generation aircraft. Iran, despite decades of investment in air defense architecture, likely never even saw the missiles coming. The Black Tomahawk, the reverse-engineered Lucas swarms, and the hypersonic terminal velocities of the pre-RSM all perfectly illustrate a terrifying reality for any adversary of the United States. Washington doesn't just rest on its overwhelming logistical supremacy, it relentlessly innovates, adapts, and evolves its kinetic capabilities in real time. As a reminder, all tactical analysis and intelligence provided on Titan Mechanics is strictly for educational and documentary purposes. We analyze geopolitical strategy and military hardware based on publicly available open-source data. We do not glorify conflict or incite real-world action. Stay informed. Briefing. Stay analytical. And we will see you on the next briefing.